Liam and Harper had been in holy matrimony for a solid dozen years. They were blessed with a delightful offspring who was currently in the process of blossoming in elementary school. In the initial years of their union, they encountered fertility struggles, but eventually, the much-anticipated arrival of Ethan brought forth overwhelming joy. Outwardly, their family exuded utmost happiness, yet, like any other couple, they were not immune to occasional quarrels. Despite Harper's unblemished track record of fidelity and unwavering composure, Liam couldn't help but be plagued by troubling thoughts. His beloved wife had always been an epitome of beauty, and as the years rolled on, her allure only intensified. Whenever the couple stepped out together, Liam keenly observed the lingering gazes of other men fixated upon his spouse, and this stirred up an unsettling restlessness within him. The fear infiltrated his mind, convincing him that Harper derived pleasure from such attention and would ultimately capitalize on it. Consequently, he often reproached his wife, urging her to adopt a more modest wardrobe, even though her attire was already quite conservative. This deep-seated insecurity robbed him of inner tranquility and robbed their marriage of pure bliss. One day, following yet another exaggerated dispute, they exploded into a big argument. She was already dealing with a tough time. Her mom had recently passed away, and she was perpetually downhearted. Her husband couldn't seem to provide the support she needed, and to top it all off, jealousy reared its ugly head at the absolute worst moment. After this incident, she became even more despondent and withdrawn. She even took a break from her job because she just didn't have it in her to do anything. Feeling guilt-ridden, her husband decided to make amends. He remembered how she had always been fond of creative pursuits and had long dreamed of learning how to paint. Initially, she never found the time due to her job, and later, with the arrival of their child, her dreams fell by the wayside. Determined to support her, Liam carved out some time and started hunting for art classes for adults in their area. After sifting through reviews and checking out samples of work, he settled on a reputable school and bought a gift certificate for a beginner's course. He was really chuffed, thinking his wife would absolutely adore the surprise. One evening, Liam trudged through the door, wearied from a taxing day at the office, to discover his wife engrossed in a math session with their young son at the dining table. They were just wrapping up, readying themselves for dinner. As their son scampered off to the kitchen, Liam motioned his wife closer. "I've got something for you. I need to apologize for my recent foul mood. I've noticed how it's been wearing on you, so I got you a little something," he said, extending an envelope with a certificate inside. "What's this?" she asked. Her fatigue momentarily dissipated, her eyes alight with curiosity. "Just open it. I reckon it's high time we started chasing our dreams," he replied with a smirk. Tearing open the envelope, she glimpsed the certificate to a local drawing studio. A gasp of sheer astonishment escaped her lips as she bounced excitedly in her chair, then swiftly enveloped Liam in a grateful embrace. "I can't believe it. I'm actually going to paint. Thank you so much, darling." Liam's heart warmed at the sight. He was hopeful that this gesture would rekindle the warmth and deep connection they once shared. However, he couldn't have been more mistaken. After the initial week of classes, she was positively radiant with joy. Over dinner in the evenings, she proudly unveiled her first creations and recount how the classes unfolded, what assignments the teacher gave, and how enthralling it was to interact with fellow enthusiasts. The assembled group was simply wonderful. They were all adults. Some already had families, others didn't yet, but each had long harbored a desire for creative endeavors, only to be held back by various circumstances. These classmates were all passionate about painting, artwork, and artists, so she not only fulfilled a long-cherished aspiration, but also found kindred spirits. The sessions took place a few times each week during the evenings, and occasionally over the weekends. But then the wife started acting out of character. She stopped sharing her thoughts about her classes on her own. And when her husband inquired, she'd just give some vague answers. With more free time than usual, She began attending evening classes more frequently and started coming home a tad later. She brushed it off by saying she chatted with the teacher and lost track of the time. Liam, staying true to his word to not let jealousy get the best of him, looked the other way. He assumed she was just deeply engrossed in her new hobby. But when he asked her to show him the drawing she had worked on, she curtly replied that the pieces were a work in progress and there wasn't anything worth showing just yet. It struck him as odd, since she had always been so open with him. Lately, though, their bond seemed to have cooled. They were drifting apart, and Liam couldn't fathom why. One day, while sitting at his desk, he decided to give the art school a call. He wanted to check up on his wife, as her recent behavior had been cause for concern. Additionally, he wanted to inquire about extending her subscription, as she had been attending classes more frequently than usual. The studio administrator on the other end of the line began tapping away on the keyboard, verifying the details. "Liam, your wife's subscription is currently on hold," the administrator informed him. "According to our records, she only attended a third of the classes included in the subscription. She started skipping without any notice and eventually decided to freeze the subscription. It's been 2 weeks since she last came to the studio." Liam couldn't wrap his head around the administrator's words. If his wife wasn't attending classes, then where on earth was she going? No sooner had the workday wrapped up than the man zipped home in a hurry. He timed it perfectly. She was just stepping out from the building. Curiosity piqued. He decided to tail her to discover her true destination, especially since she hadn't attended her usual class in ages. Maintaining a cautious trail, he followed his wife, ensuring there was enough space between them to avoid rousing her suspicions. At a crossroads, she paused and glanced at her watch, clearly waiting for someone. Moments later, a man walked up to her, pulled her into his arms, and planted a fervent kiss on her lips. From his hiding spot behind an adjacent building, Liam was on the verge of storming out to confront them when he was abruptly interrupted by a voice. Caught off guard, he spun around to find his colleague calling out to him. "Liam, hey, what brings you here?" exclaimed the young man, gesturing towards the door he'd just exited. "I don't recall you saying you'd drop by." He chuckled. "Oh, my bad," Liam muttered, glancing back towards where his wife and the stranger had been standing, only to find them gone. Liam quickly punched in Harper's number. She didn't pick up the call but sent a quick message. "I'm in class. Can't talk." Bidding farewell to his coworker, Liam dashed off to search for his wife, but she was nowhere to be found in the nearby cafes or around town. Seething with anger and frustration, he trudged back home. Thankfully, their son was spending the evening with his grandparents, so the boy wouldn't be subjected to the impending parental squabble. Liam slumped onto the living room couch, waiting. She was running late again, but this time, he knew the genuine reason behind it. Finally, she arrived home, filled with immense joy and in an incredibly positive mood. As she stepped into the living room, she was caught off guard by Liam's agitated demeanor. "Harper, we need to have a conversation," he sternly stated, gesturing towards a chair. Though apprehensive, his wife complied and took a seat beside him. "Tell me, where have you been just now?" he inquired. "I was at my course, as I usually am. I distinctly remember informing you about my Tuesday classes," she responded calmly. In a hushed tone, he continued, "I reached out to the drawing studio, and it seems you haven't attended any sessions for weeks." Harper's face momentarily registered surprise, only to be replaced by irritation as she retorted, "Those receptionists are always muddling things up. Last time, they provided me with incorrect class information and then changed it again." Before the woman could complete her sentence, her husband abruptly stood up and exclaimed, "Then who is this man I spotted you with a few hours ago on the street?" In that moment, she realized her deceitful scheme had crumbled. She gazed at her incensed spouse with apprehension, suddenly grasping that she had nowhere to hide. "His name is Adrian, and unlike you, he provides me with engaging conversations, devoid of the suffocating jealousy you impose upon me, she retorted, her initial fear morphing into audacious defiance. Certainly, he doesn't, for it's rather convenient to court a married woman, don't you think? Do you believe he strives for our divorce? Go on, and give it a shot. But our son Ethan shall never be surrendered to your care, the husband shouted, adopting a surprisingly bold stance. The wife approached Liam and delivered a forceful blow to his face. Enraged by this provocation, he attempted to retaliate, but she restrained him, warning, "Just try it. I'll etch this incident into the records of the court." She proceeded towards the bedroom to collect her belongings. Liam tried to remain calm, sincerely trying to avoid any actions that could have unpleasant consequences later. His wife went to her new lover. Adrian was caught off guard by such unexpected actions of this woman. At first, he welcomed her into his life, but soon, when the mundane realities came and the romance faded, he admitted that he could not continue to live like this. His artistic soul could not come to terms with the patterns of human relationships, and after a heated confrontation with Liam in his apartment, Adrian completely stopped communicating with her. As a result, Harper had to rent a separate living space. Liam valiantly fought to retain custody of his son, but the court ruled against him. He was able to keep only the apartment he owned before his marriage. Fortunately, his ex-wife turned out to be prudent enough to at least allow their son to keep in touch with him, which, in his opinion, was a consolation. However, when Ethan grew up and found out about the reasons for his parents' divorce, he decided that he wanted to live with his father. This discovery deeply saddened Harper, but she was powerless to change the situation. Ultimately, the consequences of past mistakes overtake everyone.